Okay, now Jocasta has entered. This is Oedipus's wife and Creon's sister. She enters and tries to be a peacemaker here. Notice everybody that's on stage right now. We have Creon, Oedipus, the chorus, and Jocasta. She tells the men that they should be ashamed to air their private grief when the country is sick. So basically saying, look, there's more important here in our city than your that's private quarrels among you two. Um, and Creon and Oedipus explain what their fight has been. And Jocasta says to her husband, trust my brother in this, spare him. Um, the chorus agrees with that. Be gracious, be merciful, and trust him. Okay? And then Oedipus finally agrees. He has to be won over, but he does finally agree. And then Creon leaves the stage, and now it's just Oedipus, Jocasta, and the chorus. Okay? So now Jocasta, she served as an effective peacemaker there at that point. But now she wants a little bit more information about the situation and what led to it. And so she finds out from Oedipus why they were fighting. That at 7:59, Oedipus accuses Creon of a plot. That Creon said that I, Oedipus, was the murderer of Laius, and that this plot was enacted by Tiresias coming to tell me of this. All right, and now Jocasta launches into a rather lengthy speech here, and what she's trying to do in this speech is pacify Oedipus. Tell him that don't worry about prophecy. Prophecy is of no import. It's usually wrong. And she says now at 769, she said, look, we once had a prophet here, an oracle that told us that a child born to us would kill my husband, Laius. Now, Oedipus has to have a bell ringing off, going off in his head, right? Because we're going to find out a little bit later that he heard the same prophecy about himself. But let's set that aside for right now. So she's saying that that we should ignore the prophets because the things they say are false. Look, Laius was supposed to be killed by his son, but instead he was killed by foreign highway robbers at a place where three roads meet. Now, this is one of the first major clues we have, and this is a real turning point in the play. And it's interesting the way it comes out, because Jocasta is here trying to allay Oedipus's fears, but instead what she does is rouse them. She wakes him up with a clue that only he would have known, and we're going to see how that comes out here just in a moment. Okay. So she says that basically as just kind of an aside, like, oh, see, Laius died somewhere else. It couldn't have been his son. Because look, his son died within 3 days. We pierced his ankles and we cast him forth. We exposed the infant on a hillside and we let him die. So it was absolutely false that Laius would die at his son's hands. So ignore prophecy, right? Give them no heed, as I say. But of course, now Oedipus stands there stunned, right? Oh, dear Jocasta, as I hear this from you, there comes upon me a wandering of the soul. I could run mad. So this little bit of information that she gave to try to allay a concern is actually going to instigate an entirely new one. Okay? So what she hears from him is that Laius was killed at a crossroads. All right, and he asks where the crossroads was, and this immediately spurs Oedipus to think that he called curses upon himself in ignorance. That he's wondering now, was I the guy who did this? And he says here, he asks again, Was Laius, did he have a number of people in his company, or was he all alone? Um, and Jocasta responds and says there were five. A herald was with them, and a group with the king. Okay, and only the servant was the one who survived the attack. All right, now we move on again. Oedipus here is now, as he said, running mad in his mind because he fears that he might be the killer. Okay, so Oedipus launches into this long speech. Okay, starting at 8:38, says to him, um, says to Jocasta, look, here's what happened. I was in Corinth. My Polybus was my father, Merope my mother. And we were at a dinner one time, and there was a drunken man, and he accused me of being a bastard. So basically, not being a legitimate son of my parents. But he was always troubled by this story, and so finally he went to Apollo's oracle. And he heard these terrible prophecies, which was that he would be fated to lie with his mother and doomed to be the murderer of the father that begot me. So Oedipus, thinking that Polybus is his father and Merope is his mother, fled Corinth, right? And made sure that he would go as far away as he could so that he would never come across who he believes to be his parents. And it was on this journey that he came to a crossroads and he got into an altercation, basically road rage. And Oedipus became angry. He struck the coachman, and then everybody came out, and Oedipus managed to kill all of them, except for that one guy who got away. Okay? So now Oedipus launches into this moment here. If it happened there was any tie of kinship between this man and Laius, who is now more miserable than I? What man on earth so hated by the gods, since neither citizen nor foreigner may welcome me at home or even greet me, but drive me out of doors? And it is I and no other who have so cursed myself, and I pollute the bed of him I killed by the hands that killed him. Was I not born an evil? Am I not utterly unclean? Now look at this passage. Notice that Oedipus is only considering here that he might be the killer of Laius. He doesn't have any idea that he might actually be Laius's son, or that he might be Jocasta's son, right? So he says here, look how awful, how miserable I would be if I found out that the guy I killed was Laius. Dude, Oedipus, you have no idea how miserable you're going to be, because it's going to turn out that not only were you the guy who killed Laius, but you were also his son. And you cursed yourself, and now you think that you pollute the bed of him you killed because you were the guy that killed him. That's only one level of the pollution of this bed. The other level, of course, is that you were a product of that bed. You were produced there by Jocasta and Laius. Okay? So Oedipus concludes here now. His mind is absolutely spinning and racing. And so we here find out that Oedipus is looking for one particular clue. And that one particular clue is how many people were there in the party that killed Laius. If it was one man, then it could have been me. But if everybody's been talking about robbers that killed Laius, and if it was robbers, it wasn't me, because I traveled alone. So they're now looking for this bit of clue. But notice how, we've talked about this before, that this entire play is like a noose around Oedipus's neck that slowly tightens. And this is the first clue that is really tightening it here. Tiresias gave us the prophecy, but now we're starting to see pieces fit into place. That Oedipus knows the place where Laius was killed, and he himself killed a man there. And now, can we put those two incidents together, that the man Oedipus killed was actually Laius. Okay? Jocasta again tries to play peacemaker here and say that, oh, look, but still, the prophecy is not true, so we don't need to worry about that. All right. Everybody leaves except the chorus, and now they're all waiting for this messenger to come.